What's up, fam? Excited to do day number 2 spontaneously. Yesterday had a lot of great feedback and messages from sharing my notes from Tony Robbins Business Mastery 2024. We just finished last week, hot off the press, right here in West Palm Beach. And it took me about 3 days to type my notes. And I offered to do a Facebook Live to share my notes. And of the 47 pages, I was only able to get through day 1 after 90 minutes of a Facebook Live. So I thought today I'd come in and I'd do day 2 and share my notes. And for those of you that received my notes, thank you for asking, and thank you for also the great comments that I got. I had quite a few people that also called me and just said, "Man, so much value," and it also helps me to share what it is that I learned to get it at a deeper level. So if you're tuning in, feel free to say hello, smash your name or where you're tuning in from. We're on different platforms: Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. And today we're going to go over day number 2 of Business Mastery. So whether you're an entrepreneur, business owner, or want to be an entrepreneur, business owner, there was a lot of value that we got there at Business Mastery. And for those of you that were there, you know how amazing it is to be in an environment of such high-level achievers that are doing big things. And being in that environment just lifted the lid for us. And hopefully you can get some more value today. So feel free to tag a friend, let them know where we're going to jump into day number 2 today. And also, if you want my notes, 47 pages typed out. And the reason it took so long is because I don't know about you guys, but so here's my journal, and literally taking so many different notes on each day and wanting to get as much of it down as possible. And my handwriting, I could barely read my own handwriting. And so sometimes it takes a little while to translate. What's that word that I was trying to say right there and fit it all in? So 47 pages. Just send me a private message or comment in the comment section, and just ask, and I'll send you the notes, the 47 page notes that I have here. So let's jump right into it. We're gonna go day number 2 today, and yesterday we went over quite a few things. Let me actually put it over here. Okay, so day number 2, Business Mastery. Tony was talking about the world is changing so much that we have to constantly have a process where we're strategically innovating. And how can we do things a little bit differently in this world of so much noise and information? How do we stand out from the rest? How do we stand out? And the only way to do that, as he was sharing, was if we have a strategic way of innovating in our business. And as an example, sometimes we as business owners, we get so stuck in maybe the certainty of it worked this way and we're just going to keep doing it the same way. And he talked about how his personal experience, when crisis happens, that forces people and companies to innovate. And if you remember, he talked about how when COVID happened, it was a crisis, and he had big events in California that were already scheduled, thousands of people that were going to come to his UPW event. And when they locked California down, he moved the event to Las Vegas. When they locked Vegas down, he moved his event to Texas. And so he was trying to figure out other ways because they were locking down and people couldn't get together. So he always, and if you know Tony, he loves being in person. I mean, the energy in the room is unbelievable. And he resisted doing things virtually and going online. But that crisis, which was COVID that locked everything down, forced him and his team to innovate. And he says, to succeed, you must innovate. And year after year, he was the year after COVID, he shared, because he innovated and partnered up with Dean and some other people, and he started doing virtual events. And then when it opened up, obviously live and now virtual. But what that did for him the year after COVID, being able to reach more people, he said, than in 1 year than he did his previous 40 years with in-person events. And so the ultimate outcome is to create raving fans and a raving fan culture. So if you're in business, that is the ultimate the ultimate outcome. Imagine if you had raving fans that were just raving fans and shared your brand and your product and your service, but then also in-house have a raving fan culture. So a couple of questions to ask. Who is your client? Who needs to be your client for you to be successful? And as business owners, we must innovate what customers want and how to deliver it to them, what they want and also what they need. And is this innovation truly strategic? Because he talked about how sometimes companies, that's all they do is they innovate, and it's just throwing things at the wall, and it's not necessarily strategic. So there is a difference between strategic innovation and just trying to innovate and change things all the time just because maybe you're an extrovert or that you love just change all the time. So that's not also healthy to do it too often, because then that could also backfire and cause some chaos. Let's see. Will it cause our customers to engage? So when you innovate, here's the questions that you want to ask to see what the end result is going to be. Is this innovation, is it going to cause our customers to engage? Is it going to cause them to pay more? Is it going to cause them to share our brand, our product, or our service? And he talked about the teenager. If you innovate too much, and sometimes this happens, as we talked about yesterday, where are you in your business cycle? Are you an infant? Are you at birth? Are you at teenager, young adult? He says at the teenager phase, where we all know teenagers believe, if you remember when you were a teenager, you believe that you know it all. You don't need any help, and you're taking risks, and you're doing all these different things. And so if you innovate too much, then the business can fail. And it happens a lot at this stage, in the teenager stage. And as a personal example, I believe that's kind of where our travel company was for 15 years. It was at the teenage stage, and a lot of innovation. We were throwing all kinds of things, trying to figure it out. And it's because there was so much change, and we went from one thing to another, from this product to that product, and trying to figure it out, as sometimes companies do. But too much innovation could also confuse your team, your sales force, and also your customers. So sustainable strategic innovation. Want to make it better, and how to make it better. So those are the two questions. So when it comes to innovation, he talked about an example of a real estate. And I can't remember what year it was, but he gave an example of Vancouver, when there was Vancouver. I guess there was a lull in the market, and he was sharing how. Let me see if I can remember this. From what I remember, he was sharing, it was a real estate agent. She was very successful. She was averaging about $500,000 a year. And it was already about 4 or 5 months into it, and she hadn't sold one home that year. And she was scrambling, like, man, what? Something needs to change. I need to figure out a way to get my business rolling. And in Vancouver, she was given a strategy. She started innovating, saying, okay, instead of trying to do the same thing that everybody else is doing and trying to get the same customers from here in Canada, where is the money at? And they innovated, and she and her team actually went out to China and created a strategy of sharing the beauty of buying property in Vancouver, Canada, in China. And so they did trade shows, and they did a whole marketing strategy, and they even went to China, and they brought business from China to Vancouver. And that whole year, the rest of the year, 4 months, no sales, 8 months, 1.2 million she earned in commission. So that's another way of thinking about innovation. Also talked about Starbucks coffee, and the owner of Starbucks, that he was in Italy, and he saw these cafes in Italy, and people were purchasing these very high priced espressos and coffees and lattes, and had it all mixed up. And not that cafes was anything new, even in the United States, but the way they had that experience there, he was inspired. Schultz, I believe his name is, who created Starbucks. And he looked at the cost and more so the experience, And when he came back to the United States, he didn't create the cafe experience. He just changed it. He innovated it, and he reinvented what it was to be a coffee shop. And what he did was he sold an experience, and he got in front of that trend. And we know how Starbucks exploded. So as business owners, start thinking about innovating. How can we innovate in our business? Let's see, a couple other things that he shared there. The first person, he talks about who can give the greater result. Where is the strategic advantage? And also when it comes to innovation and maybe new ideas, and we're obviously going into a whole new world. We all know with AI, who knows where the next year, 2 years, 5 years is going to be. There's some more likely industries are going to be changing radically. There's going to be new industries and new products and new services that are going to be opening up. And he talked about usually the first person. You don't always want to be the first person in a trend or the first person in a movement, because usually the first person gets a lot of arrows, a lot of naysayers, a lot of resistance. And a lot of times people that are the first ones to market usually get the arrows, and oftentimes they don't make it. So he says the best is to be one of the first and being in front of that trend, being one of the first. You don't necessarily have to be the first in order to be super successful. But the key is also to be ahead of the trend, So there's a bunch of questions that we had in our books. Matter of fact, this was the amazing book, the Tony Robbins Mastery book here. Lots of golden nuggets. And also he had it in a digital format as well. But he talked about, and if anybody has any questions, feel free to put the questions or the comments in the chat. And hopefully, because I'm kind of new to StreamYard, you guys are hearing this. But it'll be there on my Facebook. So 5 steps to innovate a company. Strategic innovations. Here's 5 steps that you can implement to start innovating in your company. He said, number 1, you need new voices. And he gave an example of IBM that had gotten really flat. They were the big dogs in the computer space, and one of the years they got really flat, and they brought in Louis Gerster. And IBM had been a company that had been around for a long time, and they've been used to doing business the same way. And then it got super flat. And matter of fact, they started going backwards. And when he came in, they brought him in to innovate, to turn the company around and get back to being the big dog. And he asked the question when he took over IBM, and that question was, how many people work with IBM that are under 40 and that live in Northern California, where their corporate headquarters is located? So just that one question, by asking that, why was he asking that? He was asking that because he knew that the company was flat, and in order to get it to grow and get back into progress, he needed to bring some new blood in, some younger blood that understood the market, was a little bit more connected to the market. And obviously that question was not very many people that were under the age of 40 in IBM that lived close to their headquarters. And so they went on a new hiring spree to bring in some young minds, some new minds, some fresh minds in order to turn the company around. So new voices is super important. And as he was sharing this with me, with us, I thought to myself, man, who are the people that I know in our lives that are not necessarily in our business, but that we are connected with, that could be a new voice, that would love to share our business model and say, hey, what would you do here? What would you, any ideas, any innovations? We all have people that we know that maybe we look up to or respect or been successful in their business. How cool would it be to ask them to come in and maybe help you with some things and take a look at your business model and what any ideas or suggestions they would give, but bringing new voices in. If you're a solopreneur, you can still do this with somebody that you respect and run them through maybe a challenge or some things that you're going through right now in your business and see if they have any ideas. And when you bring new voices in, so we created a list of a whole bunch of people that we respect in business that Yvette and I, we're just going to reach out to them and see if they'd be open to having a conversation about helping us to innovate and maybe some ideas and some strategies that they can bring to the table. And he also talked about when they do bring ideas and strategies, don't be that person that shoots down, oh, that won't work. Oh, we tried that. That's not going to serve you, and it's definitely not going to serve them. So be open. Just throw ideas. He goes, sometimes the craziest ideas are the ones that take off. So do it with an open mind and an open heart. He says, second way to innovate is new questions and new conversations. New questions and new conversations. And that's why you'll notice a lot of my notes has a whole bunch of questions, because questions are so powerful. So new questions and new conversations. He gave an example of Bill Gates. He says, Bill Gates was not about just selling computers. He asked this question: how can I become the intelligence that runs all computers? And the answer to that question was, he went out, he didn't create MS-DOS, he bought it. And then all that it has to do to get in all computers, he was first to market. Now, obviously, Microsoft owned the market for many years. And then all people have to do is upgrade their service. So he got the software into the computers, into the masses. And that was the question that he asked. Not, how do I sell more computers? That was a powerful question. Third way for innovation is new perspectives. Another way is bring new passions and also new experiments. And I didn't know this, but new experiments. And like I said, that's why sometimes just throwing ideas out there. And as a matter of fact, that's how Twitter exploded. It was through an experiment that a couple of their coders decided, hey, let's create a social media platform that lets people share what they are doing in the moment. And the experiment was, let's see if they can do it with just 280 characters. So instead of being able to write a novel, keep it limited, but focus on what people are doing in the moment. And it just started as an experiment. And that one crazy idea, the coders wanted to see if there would be any engagement. And we all know what happened. And that's basically the cornerstone, if you will, of Twitter, is minimal characters and what's happening right now in the moment. A new 90 days. How are you going to get new voices in your business in the next 90 days? What are new questions that we need to ask? Change the questions, change the answers. Change the questions, change the answers. As a matter of fact, I was recently coaching a very high-level CEO, and I was just so amazed that sometimes, no matter how successful somebody is, we all have blind spots. And as we were having conversations, I started hearing some limiting beliefs, and those limiting beliefs led to him kind of getting in his own way. And so asking better questions and redirecting those questions to bring them back at cause, but instead of focusing on what you don't want, helping somebody to focus on what they do want and opening up those possibilities. So no matter how successful somebody is, it's always great to get an outside perspective to start asking better questions. As an example, a friend of Tony's was stressed out asking, how am I going to open up 3 new stores this month? And as a business owner, that sounds like a lot. Open up 3 new stores. And Tony asked him, you're asking the wrong question. He said, a better question would be, how can you open up 30 stores in a month? He's like, 30 stores? I can barely even think about 3. He says, well, if you think about opening up 30 stores on what you would need to do and what would need to happen in the systems and the processes and the people that you need, if you think about it from that perspective, opening up 3 stores is going to be easy. And all he did was just reframe that mindset. And with this better question, his friend not only opened up 3 stores in that month, he was able to open up 10 stores in that month. And that's another example of better questions, but also getting new voices and trusted advisors to help you in your business. So new questions. Who do we have access to that will provide massive value and a new perspective? Be curious. Feel free to put that comment in the comment section. Who would that person be for you? Who do you have access to that will provide massive value and a new perspective? Next question. How can we correct and engage our ideal clients? How can we connect and engage our ideal clients? Where do our ideal clients hang out? Where do they go? What do they read? What do they watch? What do they listen to? What do they shop? Put this. If you start asking those questions, what kind of things do they stream? Get into the minds of your clients. Super powerful. Another question. Who can we joint venture with? Who can you JV with that would be a great collaboration partner? The cross-pollination, sometimes they don't even necessarily need to be in your specific industry. The cross-pollination and having those kind of conversations for maybe people that are in different industries, maybe people that are also competitors, and having that cross-pollination, those conversations, and that level of curiosity and having that childlike enthusiasm can literally, 2-minute conversation can change your business. So we did an exercise and we were sharing with somebody else. Here is the business that I'm in. Here is the business that I'm really in. And here is the chokehold in my business right now. And as we shared, as you voice it, you start to also not only reinforce what it is, but also get a different perspective. And so we partnered up and we got to share with somebody and also hear what their challenges were as well. And he talked about, in order to be a really successful company, you have to know your numbers. You have to know your numbers. And numbers as simple as, how many customers did you have last year or within the last 12 months? Do you know what that number is? How often do they purchase? Do you want to play 3D chess in business? If you want to play three-dimensional chess in business, there's 3 key numbers that you want to know in your business. And I'll walk you through that. Also know what stage you are in your business. Are you at birth? Are you infant? Are you toddler? Are you teenager? Are you young adult? Know your business, know your industry. So what stage is your business in? What stage of a life cycle is your industry in? Is it thriving or is it going backwards or is it stagnant? And what about yourself right now in life? Where are you in life as far as the life cycle of? Because each one of those components matters. Not just your business, it's also your industry, but also where you are personally as well. Oh, what's up, Greg? Good to see you, buddy. Appreciate you tuning in, my friend. Feel free to tag DJ Barton. I know he's a great entrepreneur as well. So keep it rolling. All right. What stops a team and gets in their way? What stops a team and gets in their way? Fear is the killer of dreams. And complexity is the killer of execution. I know I've been guilty of this, of complicating things, and complexity is the killer of execution. Complexity in your sales process, in the buying process, complexity on your marketing material. If you're not clear on what it is that you're offering and what the call to action is, and it's complex and it's not in 1, 2, or 3 steps, overwhelming, and complexity is the killer of execution. And when we're complex, we and our customers get into a disempowered state. When somebody's in a disempowered state, there is no action that's taken. Also, what also gets in the way is the lack of a real commitment. The lack of a real commitment. And a lot of times this is shows up on why they're not strong enough to keep on keeping on. As business owners, we all know that there's going to be problems. There's going to be challenges. And those problems and challenges are a part of what also builds our resilience. And if you don't have enough reasons why you are building your business, you won't stay in business. We've all heard it said before, if your why doesn't make you cry, it's not strong enough. Because when the how shows up, if your why isn't keeping you excited that there's a purpose behind what it is that you're doing in your business, a lot of times this is why people's businesses fail, because when the going gets tough, they check out because they're not as committed and connected to their business. Next one, starting with how. If that's where you go to, and unfortunately, this is where a lot of people go to in life and in business, of course, is they start with the how. Well, how am I going to do that? How am I going to double my business? How am I going to go from 1 million to 2 million this year? And if you go into the how, there's too much uncertainty in the how. You got to start with the why first. The why, and then the what, and then the how can come third. He also talked about a real estate agent in Chicago during the 2008 crisis. They were earning $500,000 per year. In the next 8 months, in the first 8 months, they had sold 0 homes. The market was crazy. We all know what happened in 2008, and basically gave them a different strategy. And it says, if you do what others do and do it better, then you will get good results. Whether it be real estate, whether it be stocks, whether it be building your own educational business, if you do what others do and you do it better, you're going to get good results. But in today's age in business, if you do what others don't do, you will get geometrical growth. And so he started asking, who has to buy? Who has to buy? And Tony had given this person an idea from a different industry. So sometimes this is where cross-pollinating in different industries could really pay massive dividends. And he says, he shared with them about another industry that they were using trade shows. And so modeling a different industry met a new potential client in the next 3 months. So they decided to go and put a booth at a trade show. I can't remember what kind of trade show it was, but new potential clients. And in the next 3 months, they sold $1.2 million in commissions because of the people that they met there at the trade show became new clients. Had they not done that, they wouldn't have had those new clients that came in. Let me see what gets from the conscious to the subconscious or the unconscious equals certainty. So that's why we got to move from our conscious mind and really ingrain it into our nervous system so that we can have more certainty, and it goes into our unconscious mind, this whole process of innovating and asking better questions. And he talked about, sometimes we want to grow our business, is we got to take it down to the ridiculous. Instead of saying, I want to double my business by 100% or whatever it is, that could seem so far, especially for your team or even your own mind, is take it down to the ridiculous. And he talked about Jay Abrams. Jay Abrams, if you don't know who he is, super master marketer, business mind, one of Tony Robbins' advisors. And he talked about Jay Abrams. When he was interviewing Jay Abrams, he asked him, he said, if there were 3 things that a business owner needed to measure, I mean, obviously there's so many things in business, but if there were just 3 things that they needed to measure and grow that would give them the maximum effort and the maximum results, what would those 3 key critical drivers in business be that they would need to measure? And he said Jay Abrams thought about it for a little while, and after thinking about it for a little while, he goes, I got it. I know exactly what. He goes, that's a fantastic question. Here are the 3 things. And here are the 3 things that you might want to consider tracking, measuring, and growing exponentially. I'll show you a chart with this. But he says, number 1, and it sounds so simple, but sometimes we don't think in simple terms because we're so busy in our business trying to grow it. But he says, number 1 is, if a business were to increase the number of clients by even just 10%, so the number of clients, this is why you got to know your numbers. How many clients did you have in the last year? And if you were to increase that number by just 10% or whatever percentage, that would be number 1 way of increasing your business. Number 2, he said, increase the average transactional value. Increase the average transactional value. So every time they buy, increase it by just 10%. And again, this is where he said, don't worry about the how right now. If you're getting in your own way and you're saying, well, I can't increase it, I don't have control over that. Oh, they buy monthly, I can't increase my monthly. Don't concern yourself with the how. Just hear the questions on what can exponentially grow your business. So increase your average transactional value. Okay, that's number 2. And then number 3, grow to get more transactional value. Grow to get more transactional value. And he gave an example of if you just did $100 as an example, if that's what you were charging and you just increased it by 10%, that would be $110. And he gave the example of the big gulps in 7-Eleven. You see, he showed the different sizes of how big that they are, but grow to get more transactional value. And let me actually show you another form over here. This is a part of the digital online book that we got from Business Mastery from Jay Abrahams. And let me just show you this, because this is the chart that he had us do. And the chart was basically just putting our numbers in and starting off with just 10% increasing in each one of those. And remember, not focusing on the how, but showing if you just increased it by 10%, what that would look like. Each one of these categories, that would be a total of 33% if you were able to do that. Now, if you did 20% on each one, that would be a total, at the end of the year, your business would have grown by 72.8%. And then the highest level that he did is if you increased that first part there, let me just make sure. If you increased the number of clients by 33% and you increased the number of transactional value by 25%, and you increase to grow to get more transactional value by 50%, that would be 150% growth in your business. If you guys want to take a screenshot of that, and basically the percentage that it would grow, and then you put your own numbers in there. So this is where knowing your numbers is super important. How much would 10% be? If you had, let's say, 100 clients last year, 10% of that would be 110. If your current average per sale is, let's say, 2,000, and you increase that by 10%, that would be 2,200. You'd put that number there and then increase the current purchase frequency. If the current frequency purchase is once a year or twice a year or 3 times a year, you just increase it by 10% and your business would have grown by 33%. So I love how he just brought it down to the ridiculous. Just go in the chat here. All right. Feel free to ask any questions if you have any questions on there. And again, as promised, like yesterday, Darcy, thank you very much. I appreciate you tuning in. I'll post the my link for all the notes again in the comment section for everybody. If you want to PM me, I'll private message me. I'll send it to you as well. So let me go back into my Business Mastery notes. Okay. So those are the 3 ways to grow your business. Increase the frequency of repurchase, get more residual value out of each customer, also get referrals are a fantastic way of growing your business. So if you increase each of these 3 targets by 10, 10, 10, your business will grow by 33%. So there are the 2 plans that we did a whole exercise. Everybody put their numbers in and saw how their business could exponentially grow. And he said the key to increase is to know the number and the why. Okay, the key to increasing is knowing your number and knowing why you want to increase it. He gave an example of an apartment owner that was stuck on the how. And he's like, well, I can't increase the frequency of when people pay me because they pay once a month. I can't tell them to pay twice a month. It's just this process wouldn't work for me. And it's a great example of how sometimes we get stuck in the how. And when we get stuck in the how, we limit our possibility. And Tony gave him some examples. He's like, well, do you know what business that you are in? And he gave the example of investing in owning apartments. And he says, so I'm an apartment owner. I invest and I own apartments. And he said, okay. He says, well, what if you reframe that? And instead of you just being an investor that owned apartments, what business are you really in? And he gave the example of if you reframed how you looked at your business and you said to yourself, I'm actually in the business of creating magnificent environments for people to live. I'm in the business of creating magnificent environments for people to live. If you looked at it from that perspective and you started thinking outside the box, if you go with the how first, then there's too much uncertainty and you're going to get stuck in that box. But if you think outside the box and you look at yourself as providing this service of creating magnificent environments, then what other services can you give to help your clients have a magnificent environment to support their families? And from that perspective, the person started thinking, well, I could actually add additional services to the building. Maybe a cleaning service that people can have. Maybe offering Wi-Fi for the entire building and negotiating a contract with Verizon or whatever company had the Wi-Fi there and offering it to them at a special rate that'll save them money and also bring us a little bit more income. Maybe providing a dry cleaning service, maybe a children daycare service. So that's a great example of thinking outside the box and knowing what business you are really in, as opposed to just thinking that this is all it can be. All right. The problem wasn't his business. It was how he viewed his business. And he needed to get compelling reasons. So what are your compelling reasons for you to succeed in your business? I'd be curious. Feel free to put it in the comment section. I'd love to know. I know for Yvette and I, we have our relationship coaching business called Warriors and Queens. And our compelling reason is to help save marriages, to help bring back the deep love and soul and intimacy connection between a husband and a wife, between a man and a woman, because we almost lost it and we realized how to get it back. And so we love. So our compelling reason is to save 1 million marriages around the world. And that's what keeps us excited. So what are your compelling reasons? Would love to hear what your compelling reasons are. Feel free to put it in the chat, because if you only have one choice, he talked about there's no choice. 2 choices equal a dilemma. 3 choices equals choice. So no matter what challenge or where you're at in your business, if you only have one choice, just know there's no such thing. There's always multiple possibilities. There's always a choice if you are committed. And the only way you're going to be committed is if you really connect your why, your passion as to why you are building your business. He shared a great story. I won't get into the story with Michael Jackson and a helicopter and a concert up in Laguna. That was a really cool story. But it's all about building your emotional fitness and your emotional intelligence. He talked about a 5-step plan, Feed and strengthen your mind daily. Feed and strengthen your mind daily. If psychology, 80% of being successful in your business is your psychology, then your mindset determines everything. So building that daily, reading books, watching inspirational movies, or having great conversations, asking better questions, doing meditations or prayer, or going for your incantations, right? All that helps to strengthen your mind. Feed and strengthen your body daily as well, like cold plunge, working out, exercising, rebounding. Train your brain that when I say, I do. This is why Tony Robbins loves doing the cold plunge. I don't have a cold plunge, but a cold shower. My buddy Dave Baird reminded me of that, and I started doing the cold shower, just put it on super cold, telling my mind that I control you, you don't control me, getting out of that automatic thinking and literally proving it to yourself that you are in control, that you're not the victim. And so in doing that on a daily basis helps to start the day off that way. Find a great role model. Find a great role model, and that makes it real for you. And embody where they have been. This is why reading autobiographies, you could literally, in the words, hear their stories and start to embody what it is that they had to go through and how they think and how they move and their rhythm, if you will. Rarely does a comfortable person become extraordinary. Rarely does a comfortable person become extraordinary. He also talked about proximity is power. Proximity is power. Being in the proximity of people that raise your standards, super, super powerful. Give more than you expect to receive. Great way to live. Give more than you expect to receive. You talk about every day, stand guard of your mind. Oh, I have a card there. Stand guard to your mind. Negative thoughts is to look for survival and what could harm or kill you. And we all have that side of us. We like to call it the human animal or human instinct side of us. And usually with negative thoughts, when we're in survival, our response is fight, flight, or freeze. And Tony shared a story of Peter Guber, who's super successful. That Peter had heard some of Tony's tapes, applied some of his stuff, empowered him. And Peter was a part of a very exclusive community of high net worth people and also high influential people. And he invited Tony to go on a trip for 9 days with him and a group of his friends. And these are, people like Pat Riley, Sylvester Stallone, these very high level people. And Tony was like, wow, that would be amazing to go. But at the time, Tony was in his early 30s and his business was tied to him, and he wasn't making as much profits, if you will, like he is now. And so he said he thought about going in a private plane, and he's asking all these questions in his head. How much is it going to cost? Am I going to be able to take the time away from my business? And people like Pat Riley and the richest man in Canada was going to be there, and Tony was finally decided, you know what, I just got to make it happen. I'm going to figure out a way. And he decided to go. And while he was on there, they would go and fly on a private plane to different places. And they were having this experience, great conversations, great communications. And he said at one point, everybody was sleeping on the private plane. And the richest man in Canada, while Tony was reading a magazine, and the richest man in Canada kind of hit the magazine. And he did it twice. And Tony was like, this is the richest man in Canada. He's like, can I help you? And the richest man in Canada told Tony, he said, I hate you. And again, Tony's telling his story. So I'm just repeating. He tells her, I hate you. And Tony's like, excuse me? He's like, the richest man in Canada told Tony, everywhere we go, you get all of this love and people thanking you for changing their life. And he goes, I'm wealthy, but I don't get that kind of acknowledgement in what it is that I do. And he was kind of saying it tongue in cheek. And he, as they were talking, Tony felt like, he felt like at the time he didn't belong there. He didn't deserve to be there. He didn't feel like he fit in. And because all these were super wealthy people. And Tony had a lot of impact, but he wasn't as wealthy as he is today back then in his early 30s. And so he said the key to creating an extremely abundant lifestyle is proximity. Because what that billionaire shared with Tony is he realized that because Tony was kind of silent and not, he also realized that Tony didn't think that he belonged there. And he said these words to him. The billionaire said these words to Tony. He said, you belong here, but only if you decide. To what proximity and what circles do you want to run in? And so the message is you belong there, but you only belong there if you decide that you belong there. And he wanted his life to matter, just like all of us do, I think. And why don't you see that? He asked him. He says, you want to become wealthy. Proximity is power. And he said, who you spend time with is who you become. And so the billionaire from Canada told Tony, gave him some advice. And he says, what you need to do if you really want to build your wealth, you working and doing what you're doing is awesome. You're having massive impact, but how you're building your business, because it's all based on you, you're never going to build true wealth. He says, you need to go spend time and proximity with private equity people in New York. You have a lot of contacts that know these people. Go visit them and start to develop a relationship with them. These are the wealthiest people on the planet. Remember, proximity is power. And so Tony decided, he took that information and he decided to reach out to his contacts, and periodically he'd go fly to New York and meet with some of these private equity managers and just have conversations, pick their brain, learn from them, connect with them, started to build a relationship with them. And he says, everything I have is not enough to be intelligent. obviously being smart is great, but it's not enough. You have to be around those people that are playing at the highest level, because just even to be on the court with a Michael Jordan or a LeBron James today, your game is going to increase. Just to be, your mindset, how you show up, how you focus is going to increase. And so he goes, you need to be around them. So Tony decided to go and visit with them. He followed his advice. He says to get in a room with people who make you feel uncomfortable and make you feel like you're not enough. So many times we just want to be around the people. We want to be the smartest person. We want to be the wealthiest people. And if you're not putting yourself in environments where you're not uncomfortable, and that feeling of uncomfortable, it's going to trigger that feeling of, oh, I'm not good enough. But again, that's just your internal representation. If you decide you are good enough and you stretch yourself, eventually that emotional and an intelligent muscle will build, and you'll start to realize they put their pants on the same way we do, right? One leg at a time. And so he followed his advice for 2 years, and Tony went into, you know how Tony's a great storyteller, and nothing had happened. But he went for 2 years meeting with these private equity guys, and there was no monetary results. But he knew that just being around the proximity, and eventually what happened about 2.5 years after that private plane experience, then a deal came through where he was asked to negotiate and bring two players that didn't get along together, to bring these two companies together. And they asked Tony if he would come in and help to negotiate and get them on the same page. And so Tony did his thing, because Tony's a master influencer. And because he helped to put that deal together, he earned $30 million, which eventually turned into $400 million deal, which would have never happened had he not been in those circles and developed those relationships with those people. And so even though it took time for the fruits to pay, it paid off in a big way. And matter of fact, that group with Peter that Tony's a part of, called the Scorpions, is what inspired Tony to start his own Platinum Partner Program, which Yvette and I are very, very fortunate to be a part of back in 2010. And the Platinum Partners is very similar to what Peter invited Tony, which is just a high level group of people that are resourceful, that are world changers. And so with Tony Robbins and Platinum Partners, you get to travel 3 times a year with Tony and doing some of the most epic things around the world, where it's focused on growth, it's focused on service, because we always do a service project, but it's also focused on community and playing and being around other like-minded people that are playing life at the highest level. And so the Platinum Partner model is: the planet is our playground and love is our legacy. The planet is our playground and love is our legacy. How cool is that? Matter of fact, I'm going to see if I can find something here for you guys that will be kind of an extra bonus and a treat. Let me see if I can find it. But how cool is that? That motto. Let's see. I might not be able to find it. I might share it later. It was a Platinum Partner recap video. Have the drive that doesn't go away. The secret to living is also giving. The secret to living is giving. Thank you, Darcy. I probably chopped that story up, but is a great story. Because again, the best ways to learn is through stories. Tony also talked about a story where he was living in Venice and he was super broke. He had about $20 to his name, and he wanted to go to the buffet, the all-you-can-eat buffet there at El Torito that was in Marina del Rey, and he was eating by himself. And he, it was like $5.95 for the all-you-can-eat buffet there. And he observed a young man come through the door, and this young man that was dressed really nicely opens up the door, and this lady walks in, and they go to sit down, and he can see this young little man is just very, very respectful. He pulls out the chair for this young lady, and then while they sit to have a meal, the young man is very present for the lady that he's having lunch with. And so Tony was just so taken back from seeing this, of how this young man is just honoring this lady, that he just wanted to go and say hello and meet them. And the young man was like a little kid. And so Tony goes, And he meets a young boy, and he asks him, "Hey, so I just wanted to acknowledge seeing you. How you opened the door. That's very, very chivalrous of you. It's very honoring of. My name is Tony, and I guess it was the son, and the lady was his mother. And Tony was just so taken back, and he wanted to give something to this and acknowledge and reinforce this to this young little boy, that the like $14 that Tony had, he gave it to the little boy, and he says, "Lunch is on me. Here's 15." Basically, the last money that he had living in his car. And as he shared that story, he said, "You just never know when you give and you are in of service, that life changes." And it's like the universe, the world, God comes in, and when you give, even if you don't have much, but you give of your time, you give a smile, you give your love, you give your wisdom, that the world conspires to give back to you. And he said, literally the next day, after that was his last money that he had, the next day he gets his mail, and there was a check for $1,200 from somebody that he had done some work for months earlier. And this person sends him a check for $1,200 with interest, and thanking him, saying, "I'm sorry I couldn't pay you when I was supposed to. And here's $1,200." And so, truly amazing when we do give and we are of service. And when we give, he goes, it's so much more powerful when we do it spontaneously and we do something to give to another. And he says, when I did that, the scarcity mindset was gone. So when we give, the scarcity mindset is gone. And some of you might be going through some financial challenges right now. We might be going through a winter. There's a lot of chaos happening. Things are costing more money. People are having to work longer hours. And so when you are of service, it's like the scarcity goes away. He talked about making two decisions. It doesn't take a whole bunch of decisions to change your business. 2 decisions. Serendipity equals happy accidents. Serendipity is happy accidents. All right, last things, and I'll let you guys go. So marketing, David Meerman, he coined the word newsjacking. Newsjacking, where there's something happening in the world and you newsjack it to create more exposure for your business and your brand. And so he gave a couple of strategies on how to do that. When you do something, and you want to put some marketing out there, he gave a whole system on how you can use AI by recording your audio. When you do your Zooms, take the audio of that recording and transcribe it into AI. He gave a resource of Otter AI. When you transcribe it, now you run it through ChatGPT using your own data versus somebody else's data, and you ask ChatGPT to summarize that transcript and put it into a conversation. This is a great way, he says, to write your blogs and your articles. And then it'll give you 5 to 10 paragraphs. You can add some quotes in there, and then you can use ChatGPT to optimize the content, use the prompt to craft a compelling headline, and create a media description to determine the keywords for your SEO. Create your blog post, and then repurpose the content using this other resource, lately.ai, into your other social media platforms. So that's a great 7-step system to do that. Mirror neurons. He talked about how it's all about emotion and creating that experience. And he got up and took a bite in a lemon. And when you see somebody biting a lemon, what does it cause you to do? It causes you to salivate, just even thinking about biting a lemon. And so when you watch someone eat a lemon, you start to salivate. So the closer you are in the proximity, the more connected you feel to them. Just like the more connected your clients are to you, the more closer you are to them, the more connected they are to you. So that is day 2 notes of business mastery. Hopefully you guys got some value. Would love to hear from you. Feel free to put in the content what, even if there was just one thing, one nugget that you got from today, feel free to put it in the comment. And also, if you want my full 47-page notes, send me a private message or put it in the comment section here. I'll send you over the Google Doc so you can have all of these notes. Over the next few days, I'll be doing day 3, day 4, and day 5. So thank you guys for tuning in. Much love, and make it a great Friday. Bye-bye.